This is a roundtable conversation happening via Zoom, but the idea is to kind of talk to you all about your experience in the Assignment Design Institute and just about assignments in the classroom in general and the impact that they have on you as faculty and the impact that they have on students. And so what we can do first is get started with introductions. My name is William Hardaway. I'm an instructional designer here in the Office of Ideas.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian. I'm an assistant professor over in Criminology, and I'm redesigning assignments for our graduate statistics class.
Hi, I'm John Jordan. I'm a longtime lecturer in the theater and dance department, and I'm wanting to incorporate these in all of the classes I teach, which are mostly GE and major classes in the classroom, not this dance studio.
My name is Manal Samaha. I've been a part-time lecturer for over a decade now with public health, and I'm looking to incorporate the things we've learned into a few of my classes, but mostly my PH 90 class, which is just kind of like an intro class. So it's a GE class, and just trying to incorporate those into that.
Hi, I'm Antonina, lecturer for the math department. I'm trying to redesign a few assignments in my calculus and my trigonometry classes.
And I'm Jason McGinsey, another instructional designer here in the Office of Ideas at Fresno State.
So just to give some context for this first question for the audience, the Assignment Design Institute was a 3-day institute which focused on assignment design and specifically on how assignments could be more universal, more transparent, and more relevant for students. And so with the first question, which anybody can answer, what was your experience? Could you describe your experience at going through the Assignment Design Institute?
And to add to that, why did you sign up for it?
So I signed up for the Institute for the session because I just have like a deep interest, I guess you could say, in curriculum design. I've always been, more into what the outcome of the assignment than the actual assignment. Yeah, I'm looking at that. And then, always designing with a purpose whenever I'm creating assignments. And, I guess by attending this 3-day session that you guys held for us, it was really great, with the worksheets that you gave us to help us really, break it down into more detail. And I felt like even with the first assignment that we had due, I just, it was like constant brainstorming. I can do this, and now I can add this, and I can change this, and just one thought led to another. So it's it was a great assignment, and I'm looking forward to redesigning a couple more, throughout the summer and seeing where that takes me on design.
Well, I sign up because I do want to have new assignments, or maybe not new assignments, but new ways of the assignments for my students. So I won't repeat myself every semester. But I always have hard time with finding time on my own to do some research. Usually it's hard for me to be creative, just because I'm more math person, not creative. And too busy with life and kids. So I have hard time to actually find the time on my own to sit and Google and research the new ideas. So these classes force me to actually leave my kids home and you guys provide so much information, so I don't have to Google all around. And me personally, I really liked transparent assignments and the tilt high add, which I explore already a few days, and I will do that over summer. So instead of me finding that, you guys just provided, there's a lots of information for me to read. So yeah, it was really nice to have all that info, and now I can just read all through and redesign my assignments to have more transparent.
I like to get into put, new fresh ideas into my teaching periodically. I like to take a workshop every now and then just to keep it alive, because I've taught some of the same classes for 20 years. And I also know that I didn't get a lot of pedagogy training in the classroom. So I appreciate hearing about other people's ideas about how to teach. But I'm also a pretty, I can be very shy about talking to other people about how I'm teaching. Like your faculty mentor kind of workshop kind of things have always terrified me. So this was a manageable bite where we get to come together and talk about what we're doing, but we don't have to reveal everything that we're doing. So it felt a little safer for me in that context, but it was still nice over a period of days where our little group felt like we got comfortable with each other and we're relaxed and able to talk about stuff fairly easily. So I appreciated that element of the format too, that it wasn't just an afternoon, but it also wasn't too big of a bite. And I felt like, there's tons of stuff more to explore that we got to. And so I'm happy to have that as stuff to work on this summer.
So for me, I came into this institute. I was very, very happy when I saw the call, because I was already planning to redesign my whole stats course from scratch, because I came to the realization that there was a mismatch between what I was hoping for them to be able to do in the course and what they could actually do. So I needed to scale back the course quite a bit. And the other thing that I needed to grapple with was finding some more open source software and integrating that open source software in a way that isn't frustrating. So we were using SPSS, and that was fine in the lab, but the assignments, they needed to do them at home, and they did not like a Porto. They hated that thing. And so I basically am going to have to shift the whole course to using free software like JASP and R. But for any of you, Antonina might be familiar with R. That's quite a big jump as far as redesigning everything. So I was thankful that we just had a set time, even if it's 3 days, just to get started, because it was a very daunting prospect to have to sit down and redesign everything. So I'm very, very happy that I had a reason to actually do that this summer, a year ahead of the class. And then I'm going to just keep working on it in the fall.
One thing that has stuck out to me is like the concept of transparent assignment design. What were some of the reactions when we were going through that portion from a few of you?
I really liked that. That was probably the biggest implementation and change for my assignments, was adding a lot more transparency in design. So the assignments are now much longer, but not because there's more work. They just have a lot of upfront information now. So now I'm explaining the context of the variables. I'm explaining why they're doing the assignment. I have the learning outcomes on the assignment page. And I feel much better about it now. And the other nice thing about this is I can actually justify including some critical thinking questions, one critical thinking question on their assignment where they don't do math, they just think about the data. And I couldn't do that before because they didn't have the necessary context to even begin answering that question. So that it actually opened up some new assessment strategies that I didn't have available to me. So that was really nice.
I would say that the concept of transparency was a nice surprise for me. I wasn't familiar with that term, but I had been feeling for the last couple of years, at least, this a lack of buy-in from the students, to sort of like the assumptions about I do this, you'll do that, or it seemed like we're breaking down. And I had this impulse to want to explain what we were doing, why we were doing, why is this beneficial, but I had felt reluctant. I didn't feel like I was necessarily allowed to spend that much class time talking about why we were doing stuff. And also, like, who am I to tell them why? I should just do my materials. But I feel more permission now to spend time that it has pedagogical value to spend that time talking about it. So I'm relieved and excited about that.
I feel like, I've, tried to improve it. Like every semester, whenever I introduce a new assignment, I always bring it back to the students on how can I make this a better experience for next semester. So that's always been a pattern for me. But also going through, the transparency of why we're doing this and connecting it to their day-to-day life and their, the whole, it's, in public health, a lot of it is, how do you connect it to your life? It's that's the main focus of the course. And being able to write it out and explain it, look at what I've done in the past, look at my syllabus, where can I improve it? Where can I connect it a little more? How can I make this a more desirable activity? Because it can be daunting when you first look at it. Like I have to read in a 300-page book, and then I have to like relate it to the 6 chapters in the textbook, and then so at first glance it's like, wow, that's a big assignment. But I've always had positive feedback on, oh, that actually ended up being my favorite one, because I was able to connect it to this real life story. So just seeing it, but I think working on it and looking at how I can upfront make it easier for the students to take it all in, on the first day of class, and not be afraid, to approach that assignment has been pretty big. And now I'm looking at a couple of the other assignments and seeing how I could, work on those and make those a little more welcoming to students.
For me, I really liked idea, as Ryan said, that it does not have to be too long. Instead of too long assignments, that's what I usually did. I like 5 questions, give the students 5 questions for the short, not for the test, but just for the practice, and they had to complete them. So, and instead, what is more transparent assignment introduced, just give them 1 or 2 actually don't even give problems. What I like the most is they need to create the problem. And it's really nice thing, because they can actually think about it. They can use some ebook resources that I provide them, not just blindly give them the problems. Here's your 3 triangles, solve them, and all that, etc. You come up with the triangle, and it's really critical thinking. They have to come up with the triangle that have certain side lengths, certain angle, and then they can find, is this is like oblique triangle, this is right triangle. They have to come up with that idea. So that gives them more, I think, critical thinking more. They have to go and use resources instead of just me providing them 5 questions here, solve them. I thought that was game changing for me, for my future assignments. Don't just blindly give them list of the problems, but actually split them into the groups, and in the groups they need to come up with 1 or 2 problems that they can solve. That was for me big change.
One of the things that helps with transparency is it helps to clarify the expectations. And that's one of the things that a lot of people came up and talked about. But how do you, or how did you before, communicate to students or survey or find out what students actually knew, or how prepared they were for the assignments that they were being asked to do? Or was it just an assumption? They've come to this class, I have an assumption of what they would have had to do to get here, and so now I presume that they're able to do it. Or was there some way you were doing that before, and how do you anticipate communicating that and preparing for that going forward?
I think with my course, the course that I designed the first assignment for, a lot of it is, life experience. So you don't have to have any prerequisites, or you don't have to have a basic knowledge in math, or, it's more of, how you live your life. It's contemporary health issues, and so I think my assumption is that, they're all living, and it's more of like, well, how do you approach your life? And how do you look at these different issues in health, and what can you take from it? So that's the assumption going into the class. Now, with transparency on assignments, I think by, just having them more and more realize these aren't assignments to, it's not really like a a pass fail, you have to know this, you can't live your life unless you know, it's more of how are you going to take what you've learned, apply it to your life and move forward. Or with your parents, or just lifestyle choices for you, your future, how you plan to, if you have children, how you want to look at that, and raise them with healthy habits, or look at your parents' generation and say, wow, like they're stuck in their ways, how can I help them change their ways? So it's that having them connect to the material on that level and showing them that importance up front, and not put the pressure on them that they have to, know anything before coming in, but I want them to take something with them when they leave.
I would just say that my experience is, I can't expect my students to know anything, that they have a radical range of experiences in my GE classes, especially, so that there are people who have never been to a live performance. There are people who have spent most of their lives in a dance studio. There are people who are excellent writers, and there are people who have trouble making a coherent sentence. So I have no standardized expectation along those lines. I have to give that up. And so I kind of despaired of knowing what to do. So my response has been to create a variety of elements of the class so that you might excel here or might excel here, and not expect people to do everything. It's an imperfect solution, but that's what my experience is.
I think for me, as I mentioned earlier, I definitely had a mismatch of expectations for my graduate students, because I was expecting that they'd have more of a stronger foundation in research methods. I wasn't expecting them to know how to do the stats part of it, but I was hoping they'd remember some basic stuff, because they do have a prereq for undergraduate stats. So I'm hoping that they would know things like, what does it mean? What is a standard deviation? Just because in graduate stats, my main goal is to make this class useful to them in the real world. And the challenge with that is that most of the statistics that are useful in the criminal justice system are relatively advanced. And so getting from 0 to a point where it's actually useful for them in their daily job and career is that's a pretty big leap. And so I've had to get pretty creative with things I teach versus don't teach, just because we don't have the time in one semester. And I think what I've come down on is that you can't achieve everything in one semester for stats. If we had 2 or 3 years, I could do a series and build on that, but we don't have the time. So what I'm focusing on instead is trying to build their math literacy, so that at the very least they can, even if they don't feel comfortable doing the analysis themselves from scratch, they can at least read and understand. If they're reading a journal article, they understand what the numbers mean. And that's a much more easy thing to achieve, I think, in one semester. But that's required a pretty big shift. And that's why I'm very happy to be focusing on the transparency side of things, because that gets them to start thinking about what this all means, rather than worrying about how do I do it, it's how do I understand it.
For me, for us, it's a little bit maybe harder, because all lower division math classes that in math department, they all coordinated. So we'll have common exams, common schedule, and schedule it's pretty full. So many topics that needs to be covered, like 10 chapters in one semester. So there's no really a lot of things that I can introduce, or I can do only like maybe 10% of my own stuff, not a lot. So it was hard for me. It's still going to be hard because it's still going to be coordinated, but few assignments that I will change for more transparent assignments. Those assignments, they were from me. So I will just change them to be more transparent, where I don't just give them, as I already mentioned, don't just give them a list of the problems. So my expectation is just pretty much was before, hey, we covered this topic, solving oblique triangles. Here's the list. Can you practice? Can you actually solve the oblique triangle? Versus now I will try, here's the topic we covered, oblique triangles. Can you come up with the oblique triangle for this certain case? Is it like a side case that you can solve, or side angle side case that you can solve? So for me, it's just going to be changing that one assignment. I cannot, of course, change the whole course, every single assignment, but maybe like 1 or 2 assignments in each course that I teach.
So my next question was kind of some of the things that y'all alluded to with transparent assignment design. But where, what are some other elements you're taking with you into the next semester as far as how you're going to approach assignment design in the future?
The one that I appreciated or looked at, aside from transparent, was what they can, or was it disposable assignments where it's just, one and done kind of. I wanted to build on assignments, throughout the semester. Not so much that if they feel they didn't do one, they can't do the other, but I want them to be able to, whatever assignment it is, take it with them and maybe use that information, apply it to another actual assignment, or apply it to some skill that they need to take with them. So to me, like usefulness of assignments, not just busy work. I've never been a fan of busy work. So just that, I think, was one of the bigger things that I was looking at as I'm redesigning the course.
I would say that I'm hoping to take advantage of take better advantage of student support services going forward. I've been not good at that, so I'm going to try again.
Can you say which one specifically, or what resonated with you?
Yeah, I guess it's the academic coaching. I still have a kind of sketchy sense of the divisions between the services, but just the idea of handing off, getting someone else to offer help instead of feeling it has to be me, and trying to allow myself to do that. So I am encouraged to try again.
I think one thing that I'm going to start including more is the learning outcomes and goals for each assignment at the front of each assignment. Because this, I don't know if, I'm sure 80% of students aren't going to read them. But I find personally, as an instructor, I find it very helpful to write these down in advance, because that helps me to have kind of a sanity check as I'm going through and evaluating what is the goal of every question in my assignment. Like what is this actually achieving, or is this just busy work? And I really like that. And of course, once you've done it for an assignment, it's done. And then I can focus on revising the content of the assignment in the future to be closer to achieving those learning outcomes. So I really like that part, and I'll be using that more in the future.
For me personally, I liked also AI. I never explored before. I knew it, but I never was like, whatever, who uses? But now I kind of like, I'm pretty sure my students do use them, and I need to be aware of them. So I read a lot and actually used a lot throughout these few days. So it was fun. I'm not sure if how I'm gonna implement or how I'm gonna watch out, but it was just good information for me personally. Next one is a grading rubric. I think that was a nice for me outcome that I will try to implement. Usually I just put each question worth 10 points. This question worth 10 points. This one is 12 points, but I really like the grading rubrics, what explains when do you get 10 points, when do you get 8 points, when do you get 4 points, and so on. Because sometimes I just take points off, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, but I think the more explicit form of rubric will be much better to implement for my assignments.
Okay, so we'll let y'all go with this one. You all learned a lot of different things, took away a lot of different things that are relevant to your specific area. How can you share what you learned with your peers? How can you continue the conversation and help these ideas and concepts get out into the faculty and into the learning experiences of students more? Do you see opportunities for those conversations to happen?
I think for me, probably the most straightforward thing is just, I'm always happy to just share my materials with future instructors. and that's about as direct as you can get, right? So I'll just share my slides and my assignments that are already implementing these principles for anyone who teaches this course in the future, and then they'll carry that on. So that's my main strategy for how to carry that on in my department.
So I was recently assigned like a new class, a graduate class at the last minute, and I had to use a pre-made syllabus, like it's like we have to use this one. It was approved by, our committees. And so I, taught the class. And as I went through, jotted down notes throughout the semester of like what needs to be done to read, because it was the first time the class was taught in a certain way too, with an additional component. And I reached out to the instructors who normally would have taught it or will be teaching it in the future. And I told them, here, let's set up a meeting. These are some of the ideas, some of the comments I heard from the students. So I think just doing that kind of thing, like meeting with the instructors, other instructors that teach the course and talking about what works and what doesn't. And I think as Antonina was saying, like when you're on a course with multiple sections and you're all trying to coordinate and do everything the same, it's important to work out what works and what doesn't work across the board so that you're not stuck teaching what you absolutely disagree with, just because nobody else wants to rock the boat kind of. So I, just meeting with other instructors who teach it, and like Ryan was saying, just passing on that information, here's my syllabus, here's what worked. I think that's a great way to do that.
I'm pretty siloed. I don't have, dance is a very small program, and most of the faculty in the department are actually theater faculty who see that as separate. We are going to have a new hire coming in the fall. So I will make an effort to encourage her to take advantage of some of these offerings and share as best I can. But realistically, I don't get to talk to many colleagues.
Yeah, we have the classes that I teach, college algebra especially. It's a big one, and elementary statistics. Those are both coordinated. Those are a lot of sections in the coordinator. Usually we do have meetings before the semester with the coordinator. So all I can do is just share this information with the coordinator and whoever else going to be there in the meeting. How can we improve, or just give ideas, because these assignments that I create, they are not mandatory for every other instructor. It's just part of the participation grade that I will implement in my syllabus. So I just can share what I do for that 10% of participation grade and what assignments I create. So that would be nice for the, I think, August meeting we have before the semester starts.
Well, thank you all for your time. This has been an amazing conversation, and I'm glad that you got a lot out of the Assignment Design Institute. And I know that we talked about as a group, if we could have like an after action meeting at the end of next fall. So we hope to start planning that soon as well. Thank you all so much.
To learn more, visit our website, academics.fresnostate.edu/ideas, or contact us to share your story. Ideas@mail.fresnostate.edu.